You are now tuned into the Anxious Ambition podcast, where you'll be hearing raw and unfiltered conversations with those who struggle with mental illness but refuse to let that get in the way of them achieving their dreams. Our hope is that by hearing their stories, you are inspired to do more. Here are their stories.
Anxious Ambition.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Anxious Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Justin Allen. And if you guys don't know, a big part of what we do at Anxious Ambition is we like to donate a portion of our proceeds to NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And today we are lucky enough to have Chance Savant on, who's been on before we first started the podcast. Chance is the executive director at the Southwest Louisiana NAMI chapter, and lucky to have him on. Welcome to the show, Chance.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh yeah, if you're an original listener, you do know Chance. We did the first two episodes together, and I think like COVID happened. Like we were just talking about off air. That
COVID just came in strong.
Yeah, hard. Speaking of NAMI, I mean, people that don't know, obviously you're perfect person to ask. What is it? I guess what is it? What is NAMI?
So, like you said, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is actually one of the largest national in the United States of America grassroots nonprofit organizations. It was founded in I don't exactly remember the date. 78 or 63. Sure. I haven't had to say it in about 2 weeks. But it was founded in Wisconsin by 72 local people from a small town, where they just started gathering to really talk about mental illness and talk about mental health in ways that they can provide resources and a lot of like outpatient kind of group therapy sessions. And so now it is all over the United States. I mean, every state has about 8 to 15 NAMIs throughout its entire state. And each of the affiliates cover certain amount of parishes or counties. And they just provide educational courses. They provide support groups. They provide like seminars for schools. They go from youth to adolescents to elderly. Anyone that is affected with mental illness and their family can be catered to the needs that we provide. And that's probably my favorite part about NAMI, is that every single thing we have for an individual with mental illness, we have it verbatim for their family members. So not only can we help you walk a life of living well, like mentally well, we can also help your support system understand better. So let's say if you were to take our family to family class, while your loved ones would be taking the family class, which is like 8 to 12 weeks, just depends on what your affiliate wants to do. The individual will be taking peer-to-peer, which will be kind of like an environment with, depending on how big your affiliate is, could be 10 to 20 people. And you learned all about mental illnesses, you learn coping mechanisms, you learn crisis strategy training, you learn a lot of things, and your family is learning the exact same stuff you are. But it's not so much pointed. It's more of like, this is how to love someone, this is how to support them, this is what they need, this is their medicine, what kind of medicine. I mean, they do everything. Our NAMI does housing. So we have a couple of apartment complexes that actually provide homes for people with mental illness. Wow. And we also do free medicine. We can pay for, if it's not like a benzo, something that's like extremely addictive, we will pay for your prescriptions. And we work a lot with homeless. We work a lot with the police jury and the sheriff's department. I mean, we're everywhere, in schools, hospitals, nursing homes. Anywhere we can get our foot through the door, we're there talking about mental illness. So that's awesome. All it is. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, the main things I hear, the family part's huge too. I think just thinking about, someone like myself that deals with some mental illness, and yourself, your family typically doesn't understand it, or maybe doesn't validate it. And something like, if for them to get educated not just off like Googling, what anxiety is or depression or whatever. They can actually get some actual resources. And I think not only would that validate, it would feel good for the person that is struggling, to know like, hey, this is actually what's going on. I'm not just bullshitting you. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. That was one of the first things so I interned with NAMI as a senior in undergrad. And then when I graduated, they offered me a full-time position. And I remember just falling in love with the mission, which is to strive, educate, advocate, and support all those affected with mental illness and their families. And that to me was just like, because I remember my own journey with trying to, moving away for college and then trying to tell my parents that I was like suffering greatly from like a lack of mental health, like a lack of mental wellness. And they were just like, oh, it's just the world. Like, it's just the world you live in. And I mean, now they are very profound supporters of mental health and they check in, but like, I guess they were both boomers, to be honest. And so like, there wasn't really a lot of conversation that they had growing up where they had that open environment to talk about what they needed. And so I think it's really great to witness families support their loved ones, because if you don't, suffer from any kind of mental illness or like any kind of brain disorder, you really only like, you can't understand. And the best way to understand is empathy. So that's what we can provide. Like every thing presented and taught and given out by NAMI, you have someone who is affected with mental illness, and then you have a loved one, like someone who does not have mental illness. Like they present together, they talk, everything is given by those two people. And so you get like, it's like you're not flipping a coin, you're going to get every side, like every single time. And I don't know, I just think that's radical in my eyes. I don't know why. That's just something that I fell in love with, because what other way to assess the problem than telling not just someone how to do something, but showing, like, you can tell, like, what's that stupid saying? You can lead a horse to water and drink, but if you give a horse water to drink, but if you lead a water to drink, he'll drink forever. Right. Water to drink. But
I smell what you're stepping in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, NAMI is pretty great. It's awesome. It's also a 501c charity. So donate, put that on your tax refund. Everything is, you get money back.
Yeah.
Right off. It's a great organization that really strives to better the community.
Absolutely. How did you, I mean, obviously I could feel the passion. Why are you so passionate about mental health? I mean, obviously you have your own story.
So I am passionate about mental health because I grew up in a very, very small country town, population of 2,000 people, and that's now. When I grew up,
I literally graduated with 2,000 people.
I graduated with 60 people, and I had known all of them since the day I was born. And so there was a mold that you had to fit in to survive there. And it's not very hard to survive in kinder too, let me say that first off. But that certain mold doesn't allow you to communicate your emotions and feelings, and it doesn't allow you to express your needs. And that was something I never knew I really struggled with until I left for college, and I had to kind of ask for what I needed and talk to people and kind of let people in on what was going on in my mind. Like, I suffered alone for all these years, and then I met kind of people who didn't grow up the way I grew up, and they grew up in larger cities where mental health was talked about. Like, we had a counselor, and she was a amazing, inviting woman, but she didn't like, you didn't go see her to like get counseled and to like get advice. You saw her to like get your ACT scores and apply to college.
Yep.
Like,
that's how it was for me. Yep.
So like, once I realized all these things and people were talking to me about their mental health, and I started talking about my mental health, and I guess once I honestly was just submerged in openness about mental health was when I finally like stopped suppressing like all this trauma that I've been through, everything that had been like caused me to have like PTSD to anxiety and to like depression. And not to mention, I didn't really struggle with depression very much until I got to college. And that was mostly because I wasn't being like, I wasn't prioritizing myself. There's a million things going on when you move out and you're working full time and you're a student full time and you're like living the best life you've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you fall far. And that's what had happened. And I just asked for help one day. And I remember I had to ask my family and they just didn't really know what to do. And that's when I realized that I was never going to not be able to know what to do. And that's why I wanted to always go into mental health, because I wanted to be that for someone. And for the longest time, I wanted to be a school counselor, and I wanted to move back to kinder and become a school counselor there and change
Mm-hmm.
up like how people talk. But I think thankfully now we are in a world where mental health it's talked about a lot more, and I don't think the need is there. I think people are expressing. I'm pretty sure every single kid in school right now, like grade school, probably has anxiety. I actually read something. Don't quote me on this, but I read it maybe like a couple 4-5 months ago, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like for the first time ever in the world, when COVID happened, every single person finally experienced a form of anxiety for the first time in their life. And I was like, facts, because I remember so many of my friends are like, I'm just so anxious. And I was like, oh, welcome to the party. Like, I've been anxious for 15 years and you're just experiencing it. But so like, I think now it is a lot more open. And my end goal is to become a licensed therapist. I am planning on going back to grad school to get my master's in social work, become a clinical social worker, and then get my license to be a therapist.
That's awesome.
Because I want to work one-on-one. And someone for the first time in my life created an environment for me when I was 20 years old to talk about what I needed to talk about. And that stuff that I kept in my head forever, things that I had never opened up about. And to that day, I've always felt like I just needed to pay that forward, because I think everyone deserves to be in an environment at least once in their life where it is fully inviting and it is fully open and it is fully involved. And so I know a number one way to help mental health is to provide those environments. And it was provided to me, and I think it is just my just duty to pay it forward, you know?
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And also like, thank you for even getting into that field, because, as someone that has seen a therapist and things, like, it's just you're so grateful for people that are willing to do that, hearing other people's traumas and problems. And while you have your own struggles, and things like that. Let's go back a little bit. I mean, do you remember when you first started experiencing like anxiety, because you said depression was kind of a bit later in life. Like, do you have any like moments that kind of stand out?
Probably middle school, like right when
Okay.
puberty started hitting. I would wake up and I would just feel I would call it nervous, because I didn't know that was what anxiousness felt like. And it wasn't attacks. I didn't have attacks until I got to high school, because I was never processing my anxiety and working through it. I have a very overactive mind. It runs 24/7, never stops.
Feel that.
And I was also like, I was supposed to be prescribed Adderall at a very young age, but my parents didn't like the way it made me a zombie. So I just kind of like didn't really know how to stop all that. And I would say probably the first time I ever really experienced anxiety and kind of like called attention to it in my own mind that maybe I wasn't nervous was my first day of middle school. I was like, I mean, we're a small town. Moving up to middle school is a big deal. So like, I remember being super anxious, and like, I remember shaking so much, and I remember my heart racing the entire day. And as soon as I got home, I was just finally relieved. I was finally in a place that was comforting. It wasn't anything new. And I remember just kind of like talking to my friend and just being like, man, I just felt awful today. Like, I don't know why. I remember wanting to throw up at one point because my stomach was just in like, I couldn't like, so I describe my anxiety as like, my heart is just like in my stomach the entire time. And it's just like clenched, and it's just like burning. I get a very weird burning sensation. And that's usually when I know I'm about to have an attack, is my heart will drop and my stomach will just like tighten up and get knots in it. And I'll be like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta walk out. I gotta like breathe. I have to go right. I have to like just scream. I have to get out of this environment, make myself comfortable. And so I was expressing that, and they had kind of had a more kind of, I don't know how to say this lightly, but they had a more rougher childhood. So they had been to therapists before for trauma related things, and they had been told at a very young age what anxiety was. And when they told me, try not to drop any pronouns, keeping it very confidential, when they told me kind of like what that experience was, after that I remember thinking like, man, like I've been anxious my entire life, like in sports, but like all that stuff is okay. Like everyone gets it. Like, I mean, it's not okay. You should always talk about when you're feeling anxious, but like, you know, everyone experiences anxiety in like
different capacities.
Yeah, and also in different environments. So like, of course you're gonna get anxious when you have a sporting event or a test or something. Like everyone experienced that. But to live anxious every single day is when you have like a general anxiety disorder. That's when you have a brain disorder that you need to work every day on bettering yourself, figuring out what helps for you, what fixes, coping mechanisms, 100% get them down. And so yeah, I was very young, probably about 12, 13, 11, in those 3 years. I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head what age I was in 6th grade, but I was one of those.
Sounds about right.
13.
Yeah.
I was probably 11. I was 11. Yeah. I was 13 in 8th grade because I got my, yeah.
Yeah. Because sophomore year for us is like 16 ish.
Yeah.
You're in the ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a preteen.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I wasn't anything much, but yeah. And I guess, and sometimes I make this joke a lot with work. I'm like, I used to be so aggravated that like I would experience anxiety at a young age. Whereas now when I wake up anxious, I know that I'm going to have an attack. And I don't know what changes in your brain chemistry that goes from feeling just general anxiety to like having actual attacks that hold you back from performing and like being yourself.
Right.
And maybe it's you grow up and the stressors get piled on. It's not sporting events anymore. It's not a test. It's bills. It's work. It's expectations. It's life. It's like relationships. It's everything. And but damn, I wish I could go back to feeling what I used to feel compared to what I experience now as a 25-year-old adult. And I'm not trying to downplay either of them. Like anxiety is anxiety.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just want to cross that over. I don't want to get canceled for like
we all right. Thinking, I mean, like what you just said, I mean, it wasn't, I guess, not as bad as a kid, but like, do you remember like your lowest point? Or, like what was like the hardest part in your journey so far?
Anxiety?
Yeah.
Or just like
in general,
mental health.
Yeah, mental health in general. Like your depression, was it?
Depression for sure.
Yeah.
Was losing my will to live was probably the hardest thing I've ever experienced. And that was when I was 22. So, and this year, 25 has been very awful. I have experienced anxiety to the point where I had to talk to my doctor about getting a sedative. Like I take trazodone now to fall asleep. And he also prescribed me a benzo, but I'm very careful with that because I come from a family that does have an addictive gene. So like I will only take it if I can't like make it through it, and I can make it through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely my junior year of college.
Okay.
I had kind of lost my identity. I didn't know who I needed to be. I had been on my own for about 3 years at that time. And I had been working and going to school, and I just fell into, I guess, a pit of like, this is the rest of my life. All I'm going to do is work. Like I'm never going to get to be a kid. I'm never going to be carefree anymore. Like I'm graduating next year and I don't even know if I want to do this. Like
Mhm.
there's just so many questions. And the only question I needed to answer was how to love myself. And I didn't know how to do that, especially as someone who spent literally all of his adolescence to a little bit of his young adult life closeted. Like I didn't
Mhm.
like come out to my friends until I graduated college. Like I still like I was obviously gay, but like I like didn't tell me about it until
Sure.
I graduated college. And that was when I started having conversations with people because I had fell into such a very deep darkness from not being able, I wouldn't let people love me. My friends used to always tell me this all the time, like, Chance, you love us so well, but like, I don't think one day you've ever let us love you. And that was just because I was, walled up. So
Mhm.
when I lost my will to live and I wanted to die, and I had accepted kind of about 6 months of really radical suicidal ideology, to where I think I could have, if my roommate at the time wouldn't have told my parents, I don't think I would have ended my life anytime soon. But I had gotten to the point where I had written letters.
Wow.
I was just literally, I was also very Catholic, and I would spend most of my time praying for God to be like, hey, you
Oh,
need to
wow.
either kill me or I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
It was, oh shit, sorry.
It's all good.
These
Like God,
wire
it's God
headphones, bro. I haven't
smiting.
seen
He's
this in
smiting you,
years.
isn't it?
Yeah, he's like, I remember that.
Just-
But
did you feel
yeah,
like
I would
added?
definitely say,
Did you feel like added? Do you feel like the Catholic anti-gay type thing added to it too?
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
100,
yeah. And you can't, and like,
100%.
I'm just thinking,
I'm
you
not
came
gonna
from a
knock
small ass town. Like, I can just
predominantly
see,
Catholic.
like, I mean, I don't want to be. Yeah, I'm going to be judgmental. Like, I see Southern, maybe very one
White,
track. Yes, very right, very maybe anti
no, and white
white,
Catholics.
but they said right. I mean, maybe,
I mean,
not
right,
that
yes,
not that it
100%.
matters, not that
Yeah,
matters, but
but like
very
there's just
anti that.
no,
Yes, right,
it is one thing or the other.
right.
And I do have a very profound relationship with God as a
Mhm.
openly like queer person.
Mhm.
And it took a very long journey, and it was kind of annoying that like I never actually went into prayer about my sexuality. And the
Okay.
one time I ever did that in my entire life, I didn't get the response I thought I was going to get. I got overwhelming pours of love. Like it was just really, really amazing experience. And
Mhm.
so I definitely do think that Catholicism, the men and women, mortal humans, have decided what is right and wrong. But I don't think that is what like a Christian believer should believe. And I'm not going to knock if you are radically homophobic, whatever. There's about 2,000 people in this town that feel the same way. I'm just kidding. Don't put that in there.
I'm not cutting it out.
No, but I definitely think being told ever since I was little that there's only two sins that get you sent to hell: killing yourself and being gay.
Wow.
And those are literally
What the
two of
fuck?
the sins that I remember experiencing. And
Wow.
and I think that is what held me back. And what's the craziest thing? Most of the I like traveled like the United States on retreats. Like I've gone on mission trips. Like I've done a
Mhm.
lot of ministry. I was really into it because I was like, well, I can't be gay. I'm just going to love God. And so like, because that's what they tell you to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the people that I met, the beautiful souls and the amazing people that I've encountered, my best friends, every single one of them that when I told them loved me in the most beautiful ways. And it's so stupid that I listened to people my entire life instead of and that's what I think religion is. It's man-made.
Mhm.
I'm
I mean,
very
it
more
is.
spiritual than
Right.
I am religious.
Same.
So like, am I Christian? Yes. Am I Catholic? Yes, because I've done all the sacraments. It's the religion I know the best, but I don't practice it. I don't receive, that kind of thing. But the people that I encountered, and thank God for my generation, they didn't care. They kind of knew from the jump that like there's no way you can tell someone who they can love. And once we get past this notion that it's a choice, that'd be pretty nice. So, and that's what I heard a lot growing up, especially from the church, that gay people chose to be gay. And I would always think, who the hell is out here choosing to feel complete crap like that? So it was just
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's just those man ideas. But yeah, I definitely think growing up centered very around Catholicism kept me from really experiencing true love and true authenticity with the people in my life. But I'm not going to say I have any harshness to it, because the church gave me some of the best people I know in my life. And they have loved me very well from that day on. And that's all I could ask for. So back again, it's how you love people individually. So
absolutely.
But also, I'm pretty sure like I would have to say that like being very religious also took a negative toll on my mental health, because for the longest time I would just pray for God to heal my depression and my anxiety and all these awful things I was experiencing. In reality, like, no tea, no shade, love you, God, but like he's already provided those ways to be healed through therapy and medicine and like all these things that I wasn't doing. I was just praying at all times. And I know a lot of people who talk to me about that daily, and they're like, oh, and it's kind of from a point where like they've fallen out of love with like their faith. And it's because they went to God over and over again and they weren't healed of depression. And like, I mean, you can only do something. Yeah, you have to do the work. Like if you want to be mentally well, you have to take the steps. It's just like living in recovery. You have to do your steps. And so it's a lot of things. I just think I was placed in the very wrong state to be who I am. I was even talking about that to my brother-in-law. He was like, where are you going to go after you finish grad school? And I was like, anywhere but here. And he was like, why? He was like, you've always said that. And I was like, exactly. I was like, I've always known that I did not belong in Southwest Louisiana. Just because, I mean, even with mental health around here, dude, it's like, and I will say one thing, there's a lot of people around this town, this 5 parishes that I cover, that do not think mental health is a real thing. They think, especially if you're a man, oh my gosh, if you're a man and you express your emotions, God forbid, you need to quit being a sissy and suck it up. You need to go mow the field or something. I don't know. They like, so like having like, I probably see 70% of women and like 20% of men, and every like man that I see is usually around my age. They're not older. Not older at all. And that's why I love the family courses, because like dads will go in there and they'll be like, I'm just here for my child, and they'll like accept mental illness, and they'll accept like how to love someone through mental illness and mental health. And I don't know, I just think, and that's why I am passionate about mental health, because I want to make it normalized in Louisiana, in Southwest Louisiana. There's like places like Baton Rouge and New Orleans. They're more like, they're not so right. They're not so like, just deal with it. They have the resources and they give them to you. And poor little Southwest Louisiana, I don't know if you know this, but in 2020, not only did we have the pandemic, we got hit by 2 major hurricanes within a month time. So my little town, my little sweet Lake Charles, got absolutely gutted. I mean, destroyed. It was awful. It was the saddest thing I've ever experienced. Hurricane Laura was a hurricane category 4. She just like wiped down. I haven't actually been to my NAMI office since August of 2020.
Wow.
I've been running Nami out of one of our apartments in Iowa. This month, they're finally finishing the renovations on where I'm going to be starting one. Yeah. And then we had a major ice storm in February.
You guys don't get that, months, right?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say snow, I had one last week.
But yeah, y'all are used to it.
Different.
It was like, well, I had to take care of my uncle and the lights went out. It was 13 degrees in that house.
What the
13 degrees. Man? I was like, I've never experienced this a day in my life. It snowed. It like, wow. There was a snowstorm. I didn't even know lightning and thunder could happen in snow. I thought it just snowed peacefully. I didn't know
it was a thing either.
It was like me and my friends were outside just playing in the snow, and then like lightning was coming down, and I was like, "This is the end of the world. Like, this is the absolute apocalypse."
Yeah, fucking frogs are gonna start, or whatever, crickets are falling from the sky.
Yeah, so like, Southwest Louisiana has been hit very hard. Like, I don't remember if it was before the snowstorm. It was after the snowstorm. We had a major flood happen in Lake Charles, and people who had just rebuilt their homes 8 months ago from Laura, and then they got wiped out from Laura. 4 weeks later, Delta came in, who was a category 3, destroyed what they did. And then 8 months later, snowstorm. And then it got up to like 6 feet of water in Lake Charles. And that, don't quote me on that. It might be higher. Wow. I just know people's homes, like my friends were like wading through the water, trying to survive. Like it was, oh my God, it was intense. And they're like, they didn't have their houses finished. So like everything just got pushed back. So like right now, I cannot wait because like if ever there was a need for mental health, it is now, because people are finally experiencing anxiety and extreme depression from just like things that are out of their own control. Like you can't control the freaking weather. Right. So like, and I can't wait. So like, thankfully now, I'm not going to say thankfully, because I'm not going to thank any of that catastrophes that happened. Sure. There is a lot of need for resources around Lake Charles and the surrounding areas, because there is a lot of trauma. I mean, people are still homeless. Some people are still living in campers trying to rebuild their homes. Wow. Since August of 2020. I
was going to say, yeah, that's insane. Was Ida around that time too? Or is that like, did you guys get hit with
Hurricane Ida was last year. She hit, didn't Ida girl hit New Orleans and Lafayette? They got, east of Louisiana got hit really hard this year in 2021. Wow. They got Lafayette and Houma and all them, they got hit very hard. And it was very sad. I mean, just watching what happened to us. And we rode out, like my parents live like 45 minutes north of Lake Charles. Okay. And I remember Hurricane Laura was supposed to bring like storm surge of like 20 something feet. Like it was awful. It was terrifying. And we rode it out. My nephew was like 6 months old, and we rode it out in this house. And I mean, it was an experience for sure, but like people, it's just crazy to believe that happened all to us while dealing with a global pandemic. Yeah. And it kind of sucks because we're not New Orleans. So like it didn't trend anywhere. No one talked about what was happening. Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah. No one talked about it. Like, and I remember just feeling like the hopelessness that this community felt was just, I wasn't living in Lake Charles at the time. I was back in Kinder with my roommate in my apartment. Mm-hmm. But like all my friends who like had lived in Lake Charles their entire life, they lost their family homes. Like they lost everything. Like some of them didn't even move back. They just left because like, and like that's normal for the coast, of course, the coastline. Yeah. But like not an hour and 15 minutes off the coast. Yeah. That's for a, yeah. So
it's hard for me to wrap my head around this. It's just, it's insane.
It was crazy. Yeah. It was absolutely bonkers, bro. We didn't have electricity for like a month. There was not running water. One of the casinos in Lake Charles is on a boat, on a barge, the Isle Capri. It literally uplifted the barge and shoved it underneath the I-10 bridge. And if you want to know a fun fact, the I-10 bridge is actually one of like, it's in the top 10 most deadliest bridges in the world. Why is like, because they built it a very long time ago, and I don't really think they had engineering. And it's the infrastructure. It's one of those bridges that just goes straight up and down.
Oh,
So
shit.
yeah, and the olive Capri literally was wedged underneath it. And like some of the like we're a huge like plant industry. Like it's very much like over that bridge is like nothing but plants and like natural gas. And like a lot of that, there were spills. I mean, there was not clean water in Lake Charles for months.
Wow.
And people were just surviving. Like we survived off of MREs. I couldn't even imagine what
Ugh.
people survived off of in Lake Charles. And we were 40 minutes away
Yeah.
from like the main catastrophe. It was awful.
Holy shit.
So I can't wait to get to tend to all their needs because as soon
Yeah.
as that happened, I remember thinking maybe now a lot of people will like be able to express
Mhm.
because they have a lot of trauma from what they experienced and they're going to need help. And not to mention, a lot of the treatment facilities got destroyed in Lake Charles. Like a lot of the behavioral hospitals did not
Mhm.
make it through. Nothing made it through Hurricane Laura.
Wow.
That girl was intense. It's like 170 degrees, 170 mile per hour wind. Yes.
Like a bullet.
It's
Like
like
I don't,
one of the
I
biggest
don't,
hurricanes in the world.
yeah. And I honestly, I had no idea. I don't know if I'm just ignorant or like you said, it wasn't in the news,
No, it
but
was not talked about.
wow.
We are a very small town. Like we got it trending on Twitter. I remember the like Southwest Louisiana was like tweeting like crazy.
Mhm.
Like pray for Lake Charles, pray for Lake Charles, pray for Lake Charles. Like I remember if we tried everything, no one noticed, no publicity. Like it was, we just survived on our own. Texas and Alabama and Arkansas. I remember like the entire South, like from Texas to like Virginia, sent in each like 35, like I can't even tell you the correct number, but we had utility men come from all over the South. I remember I-10 on the way, I-10 West
Mhm.
was completely backed up because people were just coming in with utility vehicles to like just try to help
Mhm.
bring back electricity quicker than anything. Like it was awful. It was crazy. Oh my gosh. Hurricane Laura did not mess around.
So were you guys operating at all during this? Like not like,
No, I didn't go to work for 9 months.
oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't go to work
Wow.
from August to late April. I did not work with NAMI because there was nothing. There was nothing in Lake Charles. I didn't even go to Lake Charles
Yeah.
for like 8 months because I was like, if you drove around Lake Charles, you're going to pop your tire because there's nails all on the freaking road from like pure
God, I didn't
destruction.
think
Yeah,
about that. Jesus.
it was crazy. And so like now getting back to my community and providing a lot resources for people to talk, like I do see just like such a large influx of need.
Mhm.
And that's good because before no one really took mental health serious other than like a select handful of treatment facilities and people who went kind of like away for college and they moved back and they like created support groups and they created nonprofits and they created all these things. Mental health is not a very big thing in Louisiana. It's
Mhm.
I mean, it's not like desolate. Like you can find mental health, but it's not. In my eyes, mental health should be talked about every single day. It should be talked about
Yeah.
every single chance you get. Like
It's
it is
physical.
what you
Yeah.
like. Screw talking about politics. Talk about mental health. Like that's all I want to see on my
Right.
news is like where like who this is. Interview therapists. Like do these things.
Mhm.
Not about what doesn't really matter. And now it is something that it really matters in
Mhm.
Southwest Louisiana. And I think it was because a lot of people finally experienced not being mentally well.
Mhm.
And thankfully, it was more of circumstantial
Right.
than like brain chemistry.
Right.
So, but still, that same experience gives you empathy. And that's how you fix people is through empathy. And that's how you provide what you need to provide to them.
Yeah. I mean, besides obviously all the disasters you spoke about, my takeaway is like, we talked about COVID and the hurricane making these people who, it's obviously sucks, but it's a blessing in a sense that everyone, maybe got a little taste of what a lot of people deal with every single day, all day. That, like you said, it gives them empathy. It gives them, I mean, even people I know that like, like people that know about what I do and they're like, damn, like I experienced anxiety. I didn't even know what this was. It's like, yeah, it's like, I'm not like, I don't want sympathy, but like, yeah, like that's something people like me and maybe other, they deal with that every day. Like, so have some sympathy for others too. And it's been, like he said, it's been horrible, but obviously things came from all these disasters that are positive. I mean, you guys are getting a new facility. Is that?
I mean, we're
That's
going
a
to be at
plus?
one of our, oh no, the facility we were at done for, not coming back. Yeah, we lost everything in like my computers, all my work that I've been doing, like the programs that I've been working on for like 3 years, gone, done for. I mean, like lost everything, dude.
Damn.
And so like in the late April, I came on to start training to take over NAMI, be the official executive director, but I didn't officially become the executive director until January. So like just kind of like accessing what I need to be fixing in the last 8 months was that like we need a really good facility. So we're actually going to be running out of one of our mental health apartments. So like that's where we'll be doing a lot of our presentations, because most of the people that live in the mental health have to also kind of be participants. They don't have to, it's not required. But if you want to live mentally well, which is one of the requirements there, like you should go to the support groups, you should go to the classes, you should take these free resources that are being provided to you and not take them for granted. Because once we start running, there's going to be a lot of people who have been taking them for granted, who don't live there, they live outside of that in their everyday lives. And they're going to like, we have like set limits of participants. So we'll be running, it's new because it was totaled.
Yeah.
So it's like new everything, but it's the exact same layout, exact same place.
Sure.
But it's not like anything, like I'm not walking into a brand new office that I haven't seen before. I'm walking into the same office that was there, just new walls and new roofs and new insulation. Yeah.
I want to pivot a little bit. Obviously it being January and seasonal depression being a huge thing right now. For me personally, I suffer from it pretty bad. I have my coping mechanisms and things that I do. Just kind of want to talk to you about that and pick your brain about it. So like, what's your thoughts on it?
So I actually give a presentation on seasonal affective disorder because I think that might have been the first time I ever really experienced depression as like in my adolescence was during winters. But as an adult, I'm more aware of it. And it is something that everyone is affected by. It is literally when you lack serotonin because the sun is not out as much. Like you can't hide from that. Unless you're like in space on a rocket ship around the sun 24/7, you're probably going to run low on some serotonin. And so I think seasonal, like I call it SAD.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So it is something very big to me. I think it can be fixed a little simpler than chronic depression because like it's going to come, like it's going to happen, you're going to experience this, you're going to get a little bit more sad when the time changes and it gets dark at 6 o'clock now and not at 9 p.m. So what I do is I love to journal. Journaling is probably one of my favorite things. I kind of do the journaling where I have one journal for positive and then I have one journal for negative. And like as soon as I'm like, I will write negative, like I give myself 5 minutes to write negative thoughts, like 10 minutes to write positive.
Okay.
And as soon as I'm done writing that negative, I rip it out, throw it away. I don't keep it. It's gone. I throw it in the trash can. I'll burn it. I'll do something profound. Like I'll make it a big ceremony, but like, it's not something I hold on to.
Sure.
Because it's full release of thoughts and emotions and feelings. And that is something that, it's winter. You're not outside. You're in the house. You're watching TV. You're probably getting triggered and a little sad because you're watching a new series. Like You're limited on what you can do. It gets dark at 6 o'clock. I think time change is really crazy that is a thing. But
another topic for another day.
Yeah, little segue.
Yeah.
So I think knowing what works best for you, and it definitely took me a lot of winters to figure out what works best for me. Something that I've added into my coping mechanisms, especially since my dad passed away, has been working out, like taking care of myself, eating right, like not putting crappy food into my body so my body can be strong and my body can be, healthy. I go to a therapist. I have gone to therapy since I was 20 years old. I go once a week. I love therapy. There's nothing I love more than plopping myself down on my therapist's couch once a week, every Wednesday at 8:30, and just unloading all my problems on my counselor. Like, it is something that helps me a lot. I know a lot of people cannot get to those resources, and I know sometimes people cannot afford those resources. So I am very blessed that I've been able to provide for myself a chance to go to therapy for the past 5 years. So that is something that if you can do it 100%. Something that if you can't do it, there are smaller coping mechanisms like breathing. Something that I just recently had to do because I've been struggling with sleeping, especially since it's gotten a little colder, is I listen to a podcast. So the podcast is called Relaxing Sleep Noises, and it's just like this whole slew of different podcasts that just are white noise, and it's on Spotify. Probably pretty sure it's on Apple too. So like, listen to things. If you can't use therapy, if you can't afford that, if you don't even have the time for therapy, I'm not going to say that because there is telehealth now. You can do therapy over the phone, but also, again, therapy is not the cheapest thing. I'm not angry at that. I mean, I would pay someone any kind of amount of money they wanted to listen to me. Like, that's just my mindset on it. But I know some people can't do that, and I wish it was a more free and available service, 100%. But journaling, exercising, like being accountable, find yourself an accountability partner. Like, pick that one friend. Like, you're married, so like you could be your partner, your spouse, your wife. Like, rely on them to no, I'm not gonna say rely. Use them to keep yourself accountable. Like, check in with them. Be like, hey, today I felt this. Like, don't dump all that onto them because they're also, probably experiencing some slight form of seasonal affective disorder. So like, having an accountability partner, someone that you can go to when you feel a little too much at one time. But I think journaling has been honestly one of the best, besides journaling and like physical activity. And I've only incorporated physical activity since I've been experiencing grief. But like, my grief went into sad because it was winter. But like, journaling and do like what I said, like, I'll like have a positive one, have a negative, and just trash that negative every single time you're done with it. Let all that out, throw it away. Go to the positive, think positive, build yourself back up. You just let out everything you needed to let out. Now take everything you need to take in. And, use mindful thinking, ground yourself. Like, what's that little trick they do? The stop method, where you stop, think, options, pursue.
Yeah.
Like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, stop, think about what's going on, make your options, and then pursue which option is going to work best for you. And if it's with depression, like, obviously you'd be like, stop what you're doing, think about what you're experiencing, label out your options, see a doctor, nurse, a psychiatric nurse practitioner, whatever. Consider meds. You can also take like vitamins.
I was going to say,
crazy thing called vitamins.
Yeah. If you don't mind me hopping in here.
No, hop in.
So thinking about the vitamins, like what you're saying about the sun and everything, I do want, a lot of my background is in supplements and things like that. And I do want to say, am I breaking up, by the way?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. So
I can hear you well.
A couple things to think about too. And like, there is definitely a scientific side behind seasonal affective disorder. Obviously you need, honestly, I think it's a big combination of the thing of, coping mechanisms. And also I love how you mentioned like the physical activity, like because in the food, like all that stuff, being someone that suffers with mental illness, we need to give ourselves the best chance to
Yes.
attack it and deal with it. And if you just sit and eat like shit and don't take care of yourself or even give yourself, it kind of comes back to like the praying thing. Like you're not just going to be like pray, oh, I hope I feel
Yeah.
better tomorrow. You have to do something. And
You do the work.
yeah, exactly. And the vitamin you're talking about, it's actually it's vitamin D3, and it's what we get from the sun. And
Yeah.
honestly, one thing I'd really recommend it to everybody, if you're dealing with any sort of depression, have your doctor run a blood test for vitamin D3. It's
Absolutely. That's very smart.
yes, and get the results, because they will honestly, that you might be on the low end and they might say like, oh, you're okay. Now there's ranges, like do your own research, but there's people that, you know, you go in like the healthy range, let's just whatever, I'm not even gonna go there. You need, like, if we're not getting sunlight, I mean, let's get seasonal depression even out of it. If you're inside all day, like everyone was for the last 2 years, your body's not getting that D3. The D3 is what converts to serotonin. So yeah. So
you
like
just broke up a bunch.
yeah. So the D3 basically converts. It's actually a hormone. Can you hear me now better?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
that's what's, well, without D3, we can't even really produce serotonin. So like if you're someone that is struggling and maybe you've been on SSRIs, and like looking into D3 is definitely
not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea at all. I mean, it's not gonna, if you're someone that maybe you get a yearly blood test or something, have them, hey, can you check my D3 as well? Because you hear, I mean, there's people, like for me, I was in like the single digits at one point, and you're supposed to be, I mean, like they say like 20 to 40 or something like that, whatever it is. And optimal might even be more than that. But you can take it. Like it's a supplement. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
And
be
you
from the
can buy it
doctor.
in bulk.
Yeah. I've got like,
it's not like it's 10 pills. You can get like 360 pills.
dude, yeah, and it's mainstream now. Like now I'll tell you
Yeah.
this, it's gonna say like bone health on it, but it's more than that, because
Yeah.
that's what sells. But it's like, you know, there's so many options. Like I love the combination. Like I started noticing myself when I started taking my D3, and I feel a lot better. You know, I feel a lot better. And same thing goes with that. If you don't want to go that route, you can do like the lights. You've seen like the lights that produce like UV.
Oh yeah.
Mimics the sun.
Yeah.
Like those are cheap. Like there's options out there.
There's lots of options.
Oh yeah.
You just have to put in the work to find out what works best for you.
Exactly.
And I think that's why people go to medicine so quickly.
Exactly.
Because there is a lot of trial and error in mental wellness. And
Right.
it is annoying. I've been through 1,000,001 coping mechanisms. I mean, from good to bad. Like I have done it all. But like when I found something that worked for me, I took it. I didn't stop looking for things. I just knew like, oh, that's one that's going to help me. I built it. It's kind of like if you're playing a video game and like, okay, so I've been playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Well, I just beat it, but like re-downloaded it from
congratulations. Congratulations.
I literally, first of all, I never beat a single Kingdom Hearts game in my 25 years of life. Whooped the ass of my PS4. So I bought myself a brand new Switch to like just take it all in. And because that shit was hard. Also, it was a full-blown production. Yep. I forgot it was a movie. And so like what was I gonna say? Oh, so like, you know, like when you build your characters up on video games, like you have to have like all this stuff for them to need. Like that's what we need to survive as people with mental illness. And with seasonal affective disorder, everyone has that. You're not special. Like you're not like slim fit. Like everyone's going to experience that, because that's just how time change works. When they change the clocks around, that's what happens. And it's winter and it's cold. Like it's not sunny and breezy. And so you really have to be self-aware. You need to know what your needs are. You have to know how you're going to get those needs and what kind of expression that you're going to follow through with that. I'm pretty sure vitamin C is also a really good vitamin that helps with mental health, and also really good for COVID. And there's actual serotonin
Are you sure about that? You're gonna give the kid. I'm kidding. You can't
There's
debate
actual
vitamin C being good for your
serotonin.
immune system. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Is orange good? Like, can you drink orange juice and just be fine?
Sure.
But there is actual, yeah, you could, seriously. People used to die from scurvy, and it was because they lacked vitamin C.
Yeah.
They would be like underneath the boats and they wouldn't see the sun or whatever.
Yep.
I think that's what scurvy was. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, whatever.
They weren't having enough sunlight, so their body shut down. But like there's also like very holistic methods of mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't tell, I haven't tried any. I know some people that have them for all the wrong reasons, but there are actual like serotonin vitamins you can get that like increase your serotonin production. I don't know if I do that because my serotonin is already whacked out with my brain chemistry.
Yeah, I could speak on that a little bit. So firstly, if you are taking an SSRI antidepressant, do not take anything that's going to increase your serotonin naturally. Yeah. I mean, talk to your doctor, because there is such thing called serotonin syndrome, and yeah, that could literally kill you. So like,
if you don't die from it, you're gonna want to. So
yeah. So just be careful.
It's awful.
But our body makes our body makes serotonin. So like, this was, I mean, it sounds like a journey of mine. It's like figuring out what ways to work to increase our neurotransmitters like that. And there's so many different things. I mean, it's a natural thing. So it's like figuring out how to increase it. Not that I'm anti-meds. I'm not on meds today, but that doesn't mean I wasn't on meds 2 months ago, or, you know what I mean? Like no. So I'm not anti, I'm just saying, like, you know, it goes back to like what you're saying about the video games. It's like through life and through experiences, we build like this toolbox of everything that works for us, doesn't work for us. And like you said, if something does work for you, like, or doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean it's end all be all. I'll even just say this about D3, like we were just talking about it. People take like 200, it's called like IUs, up to like 20,000, right? Like that's dangerous levels if you're not low. But like today I took more, and I fucked up. Like I felt like overstimulated. I felt bad, you know, but I learned from it. I know that I need to go down, you know, like that's the thing. It's like this journey with mental health is it's your whole life. You know,
it's an absolute journey. It's not a race. It's like, someone kind of told me this about grief, because I never experienced grief in my life before until November. They told me to stop looking at grief as a race, and they're like, look at it as like a marathon where like it's never going to end, but there's going to be mile markers that you're going to celebrate. There's also going to be mile markers that are going to break your heart, and that's the same thing that living with mental illness is. You are going to have celebrations, and then you're going to have falls. And I haven't been on an SSRI since 2019, and I don't knock medicine. I literally I work in an entire company that, like, one of my proudest things is that we provide resources and money and funds to get people on like their medicine that you need. And but I got off of my SSRI because I was like, I'm young. I was 22 at the time. So I was like, I stayed on it for about a year, and I got well. And then I realized that I needed to learn what worked for me and what didn't. And I went on an entire self journey. And, you know, like some people don't experience that until, you know, they might be in their 40s. Right. They're lucky enough to, like, you know, live well until it happens then. I mean, there are resources, there are things, there are just like just so much that you can do for yourself. And I think why people struggle with mental health the most is because no one knows who the hell they are, and like no one knows what they need, and no one goes on that journey. And you, like, I always tell people, about mental health. Like, I'm not trying to beat mental health. I'm just trying to survive it. And that's an accomplishment for me. Like, if I survive a bad day, I feel freaking amazing.
Hell yeah.
Like, I don't need to beat a bad day. I just need to survive it. And I need to be there for myself. And I need to, like, not be so hard on myself. I'm going to have days where I don't want to get out of bed. I'm going to have days where by 2 hours into work, I've already had 3 anxiety attacks and I've been crying in the bathroom. Like, I'm going to have those days, but I'm also going to get back up. And I'm going to go back into my office, and I'm going to go back into my life, and I'm going to conquer it. Because, like you said, it's like, you don't beat mental illness. You don't beat it. And you just live with it. You survive with it. It just becomes like your bad angel on one shoulder. And the good angel is all the things that you build up, your toolbox.
Yep.
And so, like, it's just, I don't know. I think, well, first of all, I want to say, I didn't know you weren't on medicine anymore. That's awesome.
Oh,
How has that transition been?
Honestly, it's been very up and down.
Yes.
You know, just honestly to speak on that, if you are someone, you know, that's been, I took medicine when I was like 18, didn't really know what I was doing, wasn't taking it right. So that doesn't really count for me. But like the last like 6 years, it's kind of been like on and off, things like that. But for me, I mean, the withdrawals can be horrendous. I mean, you know, you might get off it because of some side effects you're having, but you need to realize that, honestly, realistically, the next 4 to 6 weeks to 8 weeks, you're going to feel fucking worse than you did when you were on it, you know? But like for me, the reason why I got off on this, like, be completely honest, is the side effects were outweighing the good for me at that time. The emotional numbness that it gave me was not for it. It became too much. And it's not all like that. It's not, there's some people that they start taking a medication and they feel great and they're good. You know, it's just different. So I'm not saying this to scare people away, because meds probably saved my life at times. Because sometimes meds, when you take them, you're able to kind of, it gets you at a baseline where you can actually function. Yes. And then start learning. Like, honestly, like that's how I built up my toolbox was, okay, now I feel like now I can function, because I wasn't able to do anything. You know, and it's not like, again, it's not like I'm anti it. I just don't feel like I needed it today. And I want to try, and honestly, we are trying to start a family, and part of it was that. And I was like, you know, if we're going to try that, I want to try getting off of it. And it's a journey. It's like, okay, now you got to go back into like, okay, got to get the supplements right. We got to exercise. We got to journal. We got to do all these things, because you can't just rely on that medication anymore. But I still have an issue with serotonin because of, you know,
your brain chemistry.
Exactly. It's just my brain chemistry. So it's like finding ways to increase it where my baseline is better. You know, that's kind of it for me. It's like, I've accepted it. My wife's accepted it. You know, everyone accepts it, that like, this is who I am. But if I can get to a point where I'm able to function, which, you know, I'm functioning, we're good. But like, I'll tell you, 2 days ago, I woke up and I was just bawling my eyes out, you know, like it still hits you. And like, but I will say I was able to cry. So it's like, you know, like, and I wasn't able to do that before. So it's like, honestly, I know I'm kind of going back and forth, but that's how it is. Like you weigh your options and things like that.
No,
so.
Well, shout out to you for being, you know, aware with what you need.
Thank you.
I kind of have the same experience with medicine. Like, I used my medicine to get me to that baseline, that like plateau of healthiness. And then I incorporated things daily that I knew would keep me at that baseline. And of course, you know, not being on medicine for almost 3 years now has, like, I have awful days, but I get to experience those days, and I get to conquer them with, you know, on my own and with the toolbox that I've created. And, you know, I was young when I experienced this, so I would say it happened probably quicker than it would for someone who experiencing this in their like late 40s for the first time. It would probably be a little tougher, I'd imagine. Actually, I know. Because, like, I mean, it's easy for me to be active, and it's easy for me to be around my friends. And if I am at home too much, it's easy for me to just escape to one of my friends' apartments. Like, it's easy for me to do all these things, where if I was like married with kids, I would only have like certain aspects of where I could do it. And so I think that's what it is. And I'm not knocking medicine. One day I know I'm going to have to get back on medicine for the rest of my life. Like, I know that, like, once I get to like 50 or 60 and I don't have like the availability to take care of myself the way I need to, then, well, I'll be retired by then, so maybe I'll be happy. I don't know. Like, maybe it'll just
because that's how it works, right?
No, yeah, that's how it works. Just be happy. Sorry, that was such a shit thing to say.
Doesn't those people tell you that? Hey, just be happy, Chance. You'll be all right.
Oh yeah, that's all they say.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're sad? Well, just smile.
You have nothing to be sad about.
Yeah, what are you gonna be sad about? When I was your age, I fought in a war.
Yeah, good for you. Good.
Thank you. Shout out to you, sir.
Right.
Like, not my fault.
Nope. Hey, before we get into our last, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I don't know what I was about to say. I didn't know if you were going to ask a question, so I was just going to like.
No, I'm asking a question. Yeah, before we kind of start wrapping things up, is there anything, like, any just advice you'd give anyone out there that's struggling?
My number one advice I'd give is, like, not to feel alone, and like, I would reassure them that, like, everyone around you is struggling, no matter if they show it well or not. You're not alone. You're hurting. Everyone around you is hurting. And so don't be so hard on yourself. Take a step back, ground yourself, do some mindful thinking, love yourself, and that creates an environment, a space in your head to kind of prioritize your needs. And that's when you can start developing coping mechanisms. Ask for help. Everyone might think that this National Suicide Hotline is for when you're on the brink of, completing suicide, but no, they can get you the help they need right then and there. They can reach out, call any NAMI around you. They have a warm line. Like, we have a warm line that you could call at any time, and it's my cell phone. I'll pick up. You can talk to me, but so like, reach out for what you need. Don't be scared to ask. So many more people than you think are suffering just like you are. So don't ever downplay it. Don't ever lessen it. And always, always, always ask for what you need, because it can be provided 100%.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm pretty sure you can go to any nurse practitioner these days and get any kind of psych drug you need.
No, you can. I definitely been prescribed from a practitioner like years ago. I finally went to a psychiatrist, which I'd recommend if you can.
Yeah. And you can go to a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Exactly. Like, they have a lot. Like, it's really, like, don't be afraid to go. And you're going to meet some pretty amazing people in those environments, because, like, no one goes into mental health and they're shitty. I tell my clients all the time, never, ever be afraid to ask for what you need, because someone out there is going to be able to provide it in a way that will help you live better.
Absolutely. I think that's, because that's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal with, honestly, like this channel, with everything. It's accept the anxiety or whatever it is, mental illness, and let's figure out a way to live the best life we can with it, and go after what we want. One part too is obviously like the ambition part. You're someone who has been through a lot, and is now in a predominant role at NAMI. We kind of touched on it, but what's like your big goals for Chance?
My big goal is to get my master's. And kind of like so like right now I work purely group setting. Okay. Like, I'm not licensed. I get trained through NAMI, so I'm not just like blowing smoke at people's butts. Like, right. I know what I'm doing, and it's structured. But like, I don't get to give advice. I don't get to like answer questions unless they're like generic questions. I just affirm and support. And I want to get into a space where I can give you what you need fully. I don't
Mhm.
have to just like affirm you and build you up. Instead, I'm going to give you the tools to what, because I can, I can evaluate you. I can do these things now once I get my license. So
Mhm.
I think honestly, just like if I was just in a treatment facility or even just like a regular counseling center, just day in and day out, just listening to people and just like letting them just like load all their problems. But my goal for NAMI, which I don't know if I'd ever be able to give up NAMI because I love it a lot. It's just to provide for my community. I know I talked a lot of crap on Louisiana in this podcast, probably because I'm far left, but I really do love the people here. Some of them are, but the ones that I love and the ones that need my help
Mhm.
day in and day out are people that deserve it. Even if you're a crap person, you still deserve help. No one should suffer from mental illness alone. And so I just want to be able to provide for my community, and I want to create open environments, and I want to allow space for men to talk about their feelings. And I
Mhm.
want stereotypes to be stepped on, and I want stigmas to be thrown out the door, and I want all these radical changes to happen, which probably won't, but
No,
um
that's it.
no, that's but that's what I want. I just want mental health to be a priority.
Absolutely.
That's like my number one goal. And I know if I do that for myself, I can lead by example. And that's all I try to do until
Awesome.
I can't do it no more.
But at that point, you've impacted so many people that's going to just compound. And I think
Yeah.
that's the huge part. It takes people like you and people like me, they're just even talking about it because it gets someone else
Yeah.
to talk about it, and someone else, it's
Chain reaction.
absolutely
Like
yeah.
men talking about their feelings. Like I think it's very awesome that you have anxious ambition.
Mhm.
Being a straight white man who comes on here and talks about his feelings and his struggles, like that is extremely freaking rare. Like that is
Yeah.
so rare, and it's like so needed. And there's just like I applaud you.
Thank
I
you.
always am proud of you, Justin. 100%. Like
Likewise,
you
man.
do the damn thing. But I think to create chain reactions, you have to speak up and you have to
Mhm.
speak out, and that's just the only way to do it. And that's the only way to kind of make America sound, mentally sound. Make America sound again. That's gonna be my
As you teed it up, teed it up for yourself. All right, so I want to get into our last couple of questions. Going back to, was it junior year when you were at your lowest point with depression?
yeah.
What, if you can go back, talk to yourself, give yourself some advice, what would you say or do?
I would sit myself down, and I would literally just I would just tell myself that like everything you're experiencing isn't something that like should control your life the way you're letting it. There was a lot of let happening in those days. And I think that's what everyone experiences in their beginning stages
Mhm.
of experiencing mental illness. And I would tell myself to be more proactive. And I would tell myself that it's okay to ask for help quicker than it took him. Like it took my literal roommate calling my parents and
Mhm.
telling them that I was struggling. Like I would have told myself to reach out, and because I had every asset at my disposal. Like I had it all. I was even in therapy at the time, and I just like wasn't like I would tell myself to be authentic. Like I would tell myself to be easier on myself. At that time, I was freaking out that I was graduating a semester late. Like I would tell myself all these things about don't rush growing up. Like you
Mhm.
think you have the whole world in your hand, like you don't even know what is to come. And I mean that was only 3 years ago. But like so, but at the same time, I would tell myself that you're okay and that you're normal and that you're not the only person experiencing this right now. And every person you're looking at around you that you are so jealous that they wake up wanting to live and you wake up mad that you survived the night, that you need help and you need to go get it, and you don't need to be ashamed of that, and you don't need to listen to stigmas and stereotypes that are being placed around you, especially living in the South. But mostly I would just tell myself to let myself be loved. And if I, would have done that quicker, got on medicine faster, taken the steps to get healthier, I would have learned at a younger age how to let people love me, period, point blank. Because now it's not a problem to let my friends love me in my mental journey. Like, it's not a problem at all. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I'm expressing it to my friends, like, every single time, never fails, and they do a beautiful job. But yeah, I would tell myself to be nicer to myself, easier on myself, that I was not alone, and that no matter if it came back or if it didn't go away, I was going to pull through, because at that time I didn't think I was going to pull through, or I didn't really want to be honest. But,
it's hard to think like that.
But also slap myself around.
Yeah, just a little.
We're like, get your shit together.
Hey, it's amazing advice though. It's like it's very like anyone could take that advice.
Yeah,
we all kind of need that kick in the ass, that realization that, like, hey, you're gonna be okay, but you have to take that step. And if you can't get the help, like in your situation, I think it's super common too, is when you're in that deep of a depression, it is hard to get help. It is hard to want to do it, but you have you had your roommate to kind of help kick you in the right direction. And
it's more betrayal, but it's fine. No, I joke with him about that to this day, but like, he literally saved my life.
Exactly.
So, like, Steven, if you're listening to this, you're a real run. Love you, bud. Can't wait to see you Saturday. But
yeah, if you are the friend that sees your buddy or whatever family member struggling, if it gets to a part like what where you were at, it's, don't be afraid to make that call to get them the help that they need. And like you said, they might fucking hate you for it, but and I'm sure you did at the time.
Oh my gosh, yes, it was like really bad. And to this day, I literally apologize to you. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry I acted like such a freaking brat. Like,
sure,
for all you were trying to do was save my life. Like, I'm sorry I overreacted and yelled at you and made you cry. Like, but like, and to this day, I guess, I think it's very funny when I'm in situations with some of like my friends, if they get to a place where they're very depressed and they say heavy things, I'm like, I'm not the one to say that to you. I call a wellness check right now. Like, I don't play, because I know that, like, it could take a matter of seconds for someone to express how they're feeling to actually act on it.
Right.
So, like, for something we do with NAMI as a PMT, a plan, method, and time, and that's kind of how you gauge whether someone is like, how close they are to actually acting on the thoughts. And like, you don't just ask them, like, you have to like kind of just listen to them, and they'll kind of like let it out a little by little and little and little and little. So yeah, there's a lot of times where I'm off the clock and my friends call me and they're like, hey, one of my buddies is really struggling and he or she is saying some very heavy things, and I'm like, all right, I'll call the police and get a wellness check. And they'll get a custody hold and they'll go to the hospital for 72 hours, or they'll be evaluated. And because like, you might hate them, but guess what? They're going to leave that hospital in 72 hours knowing so much more about themselves than they would have ever done if they had acted on an impulse of wanting to end their life. And I was having a very beautiful conversation with one of my friends who is a therapist right now. And I kind of asked her, and I was like, how do you handle like hearing some of your clients have like passed away from completion of suicide? And she was like, I get sad. She was like, and I have empathy towards them. And she was like, and I have sympathy. And I was like, same. And I was like, but how do I respond to people who only feel anger towards them? And I'm not glorifying it. I'm not saying it's okay. But until you've been in someone's shoes like that, you know that like you can't be angry. And it breaks my heart to this day that like people suffer that badly to where their only choice is this is how the pain stops. And that's that mindset you need to know about suicide, is that it's not a selfish act of taking your own life to make someone miserable. It is the overwhelming psychosis state of only knowing that death is the way out. It is not chosen. It is literally a actual, I don't know if it's a brain disorder or not, but psychosis would be. Yeah. So like, I think like in order to prevent suicide needs to be talked more as something more open than as a guilty, don't do this or you'll hurt everyone around you.
All right. Hey, Chance. So if people wanted to find you, get a hold of you, how could they do that?
Okay. Well, my name is Chance Savant, Savant, Chance, like probability. Just Google that and you'll find me on any social media. You could easily message me on any social media platform and I would gladly, without a doubt, give you my cell phone if you ever need someone to talk to. You could visit NAMI, NAMI, Southwest Louisiana, SWLA. We have Facebooks, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have it all. We don't have a TikTok because why would we? But like, but seriously, like if anyone is listening right now, know that you could text me at any hour of the day. You could literally message and ask on the comments for my number and I would give it to you. I love to listen to people talk. I love to hear people's hearts. I'm not a licensed therapist yet, so like don't get me sued. But at the same time, you always have a shoulder to cry on, you always have a friend to have in me. And so literally look me up anywhere. I'm on all social medias. My Instagram is chance_savant. My Twitter is savant_chance. My Snapchat is csavant. Literally get in touch with me any way you want. Find it. Yeah, my like you can call my office, which is 337-439-0219. My I'm not gonna say my cell phone.
Don't do that. I mean, but your Tumblr.
Ask for my cell phone if you need it, 100%. But I'm not just gonna post that on YouTube.
You got Tumblr? Isn't that your age group?
Oh, I don't have Tumblr anymore.
I'm kidding.
I don't even remember my Tumblrs. I could never work Tumblr.
I never had
my
it.
MySpace. I couldn't even tell you what that was. My mom. I was very young when MySpace was around.
I was gonna say.
So my mom did not allow me to have my face on MySpace, so it was just a meme.
Classic.
Yeah. My mom didn't want me to get datelined, which I understand.
Jesus. All right. Hey, last question. A little more serious.
What's that? Okay.
How do you want to be remembered?
A freaking icon. I want to be a legend. I want, like, seriously, I know that I have a heart and a mind that is capable of radically changing the world. And I want to be remembered for helping people. I want to be remembered for having a servant's heart. I want to be remembered for being a great friend. I want to be remembered for giving amazing TED Talks in my 40s when I have like a PhD and like I have all these things. Like I just want to make a difference in this world. That's how I want to be remembered. And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be like Bill Gates discovering the internet. It literally simply just has to be, I don't know if he even discovered the internet, but yeah, it could just be providing services to the people in my community. Like I want to be remembered for helping people.
That's awesome. Well, you're already doing that. So I just want to say, keep it up. And, also want to say, if you're out there and you're struggling, like NAMI is such an amazing resource. It doesn't matter your economic background. It's all free. If you're struggling, if you're listening to this because you've got, a spouse or a child that's struggling or a friend, like this is the perfect resource for you. It's for,
absolutely.
Like you said, it's not just for people that are struggling, it's for their families to learn. And that's an excellent resource. Like I said, I mean, you can Google all you want, but don't hearing firsthand experiences it's an amazing thing. Because we talked about earlier too, like with therapy, like it can be costly. NAMI could be just a good, first step. Also too, just to kind of, I know you mentioned the therapy thing, and I've said it on here before. It's, don't let that be an excuse for you too when it comes to the price. There are sliding scales, people that charge you based on salary and things like that.
Yeah.
If you're religious, you can go to your church. They may not be the best person for it. I mean, they're not trained on it, is what I'm saying. But there's always someone out there to listen to. If you're in school, if you're in college, normally there's a free therapy or counseling. Yeah.
Catholics out there, if you're listening, all you Catholics,
shout
every
out.
diocese will have a shout out to the Catholics in the room. Every diocese. Hope you weren't listening to the first half. Every diocese will have a licensed therapist as a priest. Like one of the priests of the diocese will be a licensed therapist. Yes.
I never knew that. A therapist.
A therapist, girl. Get into it.
I guarantee that's someone's Instagram handle.
A therapist. I'm about to change that to my Instagram handle. Everyone go follow me.
You're gonna get ordained.
_.
I don't know if that's even the right terms. Nah, I don't care.
Just take the
Who
vow.
Cares? No,
you get your vows or whatever. Is it vows? I don't know. I don't remember.
Whatever.
I suppressed all that.
All right. On that note, everybody, honestly, hey, Chance, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being open, vulnerable. You helping people. What you're doing it's amazing. We need more people like that, especially men. Like you mentioned, like the 70% women thing. I mean, if I look at my analytics, it's the same thing. It's 70% women. Yeah. But honestly, since doing this series, like this whole season's been just male guests, and so the support has been amazing. I've heard from a lot of people, just saying thank you, and that because more and more people need to talk, and without people like you to come on the show and speak their truth, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you, Chance. Thanks everyone for listening. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Anxious Ambition podcast. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Anxious Ambition. You can actually watch this podcast over on YouTube. Lastly, check out our website, anxiousambition.com, where we have all of our merch, and a portion of every sale is donated to NAMI, and it helps support the individuals and their families who are suffering from mental illness. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take it easy.
Anxious ambition.